Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Meditation and Spiritual Practice as we are in this special time between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And a lot of us know that there are two names for this very powerful 10-day time that includes Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and everything in between. It's called the Yamim Noraim, or the days of awe, or Aseret Yemei Tshuva, the 10 days of Teshuvah, of returning, and everything that means. And I wanted to focus a little bit this morning on this idea of awe that really encapsulates the themes of this time. And I don't know if we really consider it. I know when I was growing up and I heard the themes, the days of awe, the awe was just about how powerful and awesome God was, and you better watch out. you know, that was really kind of the tone of that. But if we really think about awe and the word norah, for awe, norah, or yirah, is a word that's connected to the word lirot, to see. So it's about, awe is about being able to see in a very deep and expansive way. And the sense about this is that in order for us to live in an awe-filled way, it means that we are present to the infinite depth and beauty and majesty of creation, of our lives, of every moment has that capacity to be able to say, awesome in a regular way. It is with real intention, not just as a slang word, but with real intention. Awesome is to be able to say, I can feel and sense infinity in the finite. I can feel how an interaction with a person, somebody I love, that connection is really precious, is really special, is really one of a kind, is really unique. I can look around at the incredible beauty of nature and just be able to take a deep breath and say, wow, I live on in a beautiful, incredible world. I am in awe. So that really is, I want to connect that, we have so many themes in our High Holy Days about life. And we're going to look at one of the verses that we say about God, Melech Hafetz HaChaim, the one who desires life. And I think that to really live, to really be alive, is to have awe be a part of our lives. And that's why this time is, as we're renewing the new year, is really about, is wanting to cap us into that place of awe. Now, what gets in the way of living a life of awe? And really, that is something that we know from our meditative experience. It really is the way that the mind labels and judges and classifies and takes this incredible experience of creation and the moment and packages it, labels it, puts it in a bite-sized, easy way that we can understand and manipulate whatever the situation that we find ourselves in. And that is just it's really our capacity for judgment. And again, as some of you have heard me say, I don't really mean judgment in a negative way, like to be judging things negatively, which is how a lot of the time where our minds go when we hear judgment, but really judgment about just the idea to classify things, to judge something as good or bad or healthy or unhealthy or yes and no. We make our choices and our decisions through judgment. And of course, Rosh Hashanah is called Yom Hadin, the day of judgment, because we're wanting our sense of judgment to be guided and infused with godliness. How does God judge the world and ourselves? What's that expansive place? How does judgment be something that furthers awe instead of limits it or cuts it off? So to be a human being is to label and classify and judge. That's totally what the story of the garden meant when Adam and Eve ate of the knowledge of the fruit of good and evil, of tov verah. That story is saying that eating of that fruit is a necessary part of being human. It's how we live, it's how we go through. But if we don't have a connection to the other tree in the garden, the tree of life, the tree of being able to feel and experience the majesty of creation, if we're not able to not be caught by our judgments and enclosed and contracted by our labels and judgments, but instead we learn how to open, then we can live a life of awe. So what I wanted to share this morning, I'm going to share my screen for a moment. This comes from a recent post that I put on my website. It's an article called Living Awe-Filled Days. And really what I wanted to do here is look at 4 lines in the liturgy of the High Holy Day service. The Amidah prayer in our normal prayer life that's traditionally said 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening, that Amidah changes based on the sacred time that we're in. So there's a weekday Amidah, which is for like every day, normal day. Then there's a special Amidah with special insertions and liturgy for Shabbat or for festivals. But then on the Amidah, on the period of the Yamim Noraim, these 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it has 4 special lines that get put in. And I believe that these 4 special lines are guideposts, directions for how to live an awe-filled life. So I offered these to you, some of these thinking, just as for your own reflection. And also, if you are in services or engaging in your own prayer and you come across these lines, that there's a little bit more of a contemplative or mystical way of understanding it. So the first one is towards the beginning of the Amidah. It's probably the most popular. There's usually some great liturgical music that's sang to it. It's Zochrenu lechaim melech hafetz b'chaim v'katvenu b'sefer hachaim lema'ancha Elohim chaim. And it translates as, remember us for life, ruler who desires life, and inscribe us in the book of life, for you are the living God. So I'm just going to kind of read this and free translate here. Who are we asking to remember us for life? Isn't the ever-present one present with all of us? You know, we don't need to ask God to do that. You know, God, you know, that presence is with us. So I would instead translate the first part of this verse is, help us remember the aliveness in us because you are the source of that aliveness. So the verse is reminding us to pay attention to the energy, the vibrancy, the life who makes up who we are. And as we pay attention to that aliveness, we recognize it as divine presence. And how we're going to bring this into our meditation, which we've done before, is as we pay attention to breath, to body, to our moment-to-moment experience, to really tune into the life force, the chiyut, the aliveness that is fueling our experience, to be able to feel the divine nature of our breath and our cells and the sensations on our face and all of those things. And this second part that says, and inscribe us in the book of life, for you are the living God, I translate the second part of the verse as, inscribe this awareness of your presence on our hearts, for you are the living God. Right? We know that recognizing God's awesome presence in our sense of aliveness is fleeting. Right? The labels and judgments take over all too easily. So we imagine that this reminder is inscribed, imprinted in our hearts, staying with us as we go about our days. Right? So that's our intention. Prayer is in some ways is a way of trying to imprint certain realities, certain reminders on our hearts to say, let this stay with me during my day, not just when I get up off the meditation cushion or when I leave the synagogue. So that's the first one. The second one, Mi chamocha av harachamim yotzer zocher yitzurav lechaim berachamim. Who is like you, source of compassion, who remembers the aliveness of his creatures with compassion? And again, this verse is asking us to direct our attention to compassion. If we want to experience the awe and wonder of our lives and the creation, we need to rest our awareness in the place in us that has space and understanding for every human being and every life form to be as it is. The root of the Hebrew word for compassion, rachamim, shares the same root as the word rechem, or womb. Just as a womb provides space for new life to grow, to provide nourishment, but also boundary and limitation, so too compassion allows us to bring loving presence to accept others in our lives for who they are, and for ourselves. If we're viewing others or the world through our filter of labels and judgments, we can only see others and the world according to our filter, missing the infinite depth and dimension that inspires awe. It's also worth noting that the liturgists use the words yitzurav, creatures, to suggest that our compassion is not limited to certain kinds of people or even human beings. It's all of creation. Right? So again, when we bring this into our meditation, we're allowing space for everything, right? Having that open heart that just is able to say yes to everything that goes on in our moment-to-moment experience, even the discomfort, even the difficult thoughts, and to not judge it in the sense of we're doing it wrong or I shouldn't have that, or any of those ways in which we want to close off and say no, but instead let our awareness be a loving awareness, one of compassion that creates space. That is kind of the beginning of the Amidah. Those two verses are in the first one in the Avot prayer and the second in the Givurot. Then at the end of the Amidah, in the final two prayers, we have the prayer for Thanksgiving. And in that one, there's this line, Uchtov lechaim tovim kol b'nei britecha, and inscribe for a good life all the children of your covenant. So this word for covenant, brit, is about committed relationships. So being a child of the covenant is not just about a commitment to our relationship with God, but with others, with each other, right? It's one and the same. Covenant is born out of the realization that we're interconnected and therefore always in relationship. We can have obligations to the people around us as they do to us, and these obligations can be a source of goodness if we experience these relationships as the reality of our connection with each other and with God. And so the verse reminds us to embrace our relationships and obligations as pathways to awe. And then finally, the last line here is in the last blessing of the Amidah, the blessing for peace. B'sefer chaim bracha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha anachnu v'chol amcha beit Yisrael lechaim tovim u'leshalom. And this one is also a popular one to be sung in the synagogue. There are some beautiful choral pieces for it. And the translation is, in the book of life, blessing, peace, and good livelihood, may we be inscribed before you in all the house of Israel for good life and peace. And the way I'm looking at this is that the metaphor of the book seems to describe the possibilities for life, blessing, peace, and good livelihood, while our prayer is that these possibilities become actualities. And I think that this can be read as the journey can't be separated from the destination. If we want the qualities of life, blessing, peace, and good livelihood to be what characterizes our lives, then we need to be committed to bringing those qualities into our world. Our prayer during this time can be, Holy One, show me how to live in a way that's most fully alive. Show me how I can be a blessing. Let me bring peace to my relationships. Let me bring goodness into my livelihood. So in order to experience awe in our lives, we need to stop waiting for the world or God to show us a certain face and instead be that divine presence that we seek. And this is a real key shift. A lot of the times, the way our prayer is formulated and the way that we relate to it is we relate to it as a consumer or as a receiver. God, give me. God, give me these qualities. Let me have these things. And instead, what we're saying here is, let me be these things. Let me be these things. It's a total active. It goes from being a taker to a giver. Let me, if I want these things to be in my life, I need to be the ones to bring them. Help me bring them. Let your presence, just like we say, Adonai tzavatai tiftachu fi yagid tehilatecha, Holy One, open my lips so that I can declare your praise. Like, God, let your praise come through me. Let these qualities of peace and blessing, your qualities, come through me. And so that also becomes this, even in our meditation, as we're practicing so we can be. We're practicing openness, compassion, goodness, blessing, so that we can be that in the world, not so that we can have it, so we can be it. So we'll now bring that a little bit into our practice, some of these 4 ideas. So find a comfortable place to sit. We'll start out with a nigun, with a melody. I am alive. I am alive. I am alive. I'm alive. I am alive. I am alive. I am alive. I'm alive. And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? Is it not the Holy Blessed One? Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la la. Ya la la ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la ya la 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 la. Ya la la. Ya la la la. Yan na 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 I am alive. Yan na 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 I am alive. Yan na 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 I am alive. I'm alive. And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? Is it not the Holy Blessed One? Is it not the Holy Blessed One? Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Ira, ira. And tune your awareness into your body, noticing any sensations on your face, your arms or your legs, your torso. Notice the pressure of the bottom of your bottom on the chair, the place where your feet meet the floor, the length of your legs as they come out of your hips, culminating in that contact of the bottom of your feet and the ground. Feel the distance between the bottom of your spine and the top of your head, the way your arms hang out of your shoulder sockets and the resting place of your hand. As you stay present with those sensations in your body, noticing your body in space, allow your awareness to include your breath, noticing where the air enters your nostrils or your mouth on the inhale, the way the body expands to make room for the inhale, and that moment where the inhale switches to an exhale, following the air out of the body. Noticing that moment where the exhale reaches its maximum length and then pulls back into an inhale. Just letting your breath be pulled by its natural movement, like waves in a shore that crash into the shore and reach its maximum length and then pull back out to sea. And notice the aliveness, the chiyut, the aliveness of this moment. Notice how every cell in your body is buzzing with energy, with life. Sensations, breath. Every place your attention can encompass in your body, notice its aliveness, its energy. And let your awareness expand to include the air beyond your body, everything that surrounds you in your room. Open to the energy, the aliveness of present in every molecule and atom that surrounds you, that expresses itself in sound vibrations, whether coming from the computer or from any other place in your world. Open your attention wide to include everything in this moment-to-moment experience, the soundtrack of the breath and the body sensations that are accompanied moment to moment, alive energy unfolding. Let your heart be open, allowing space for everything to be embraced. even experiences of discomfort, whether physically or contractions in the mind, everything has space to be as it is. No need to change or suppress, but instead to welcome, to allow, to embrace. Mi chamocha av harachamim, who is like you, master of compassion. Each one of us has that capacity to allow, to welcome, to embrace. And just stay quietly opening to the aliveness in our moment to moment experience, body, sensation, thoughts, air, sound, thought formations, noticing the aliveness in all of it and allowing space for all of it. present with the aliveness in each moment and the open heart that allows space for all parts of your experience to arise and fall. And let your openness, your compassion, extend beyond your experience of your body and mind. But imagine it reaching beyond the walls of your room and encompassing everyone on the planet. Your heart is just so open. It's creating space for everyone to be in their humanity on this planet. To be able to be a witness to all of it, to see it, to know it. And that's all of it. That's witnessing the good, the bad, all sides of the human being, the suffering, the joy, being able to be open and witness means being with all of it. It means feeling all of it. It means not being afraid to feel all of it. And as you open to what is beyond even your own experience, let yourself be that presence of love, of peace. Let yourself be that light that shines into every corner of the world. What is it like to sit here in this moment and be the presence of love and compassion in the world? And if all of this intention of expanding beyond and being the light that we seek, if all of this brings up a lot of thoughts, just let there be space for those thoughts to arise and fall, being able to share and shine that same kind of witnessing and loving presence towards all that arises in you. I am alive. I am alive. I am alive. I'm alive. And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? And who is this aliveness I am? Is it not the Holy Blessed One? Is it not the Holy Blessed One? Any thoughts, questions? Anything as you've been having your experience this High Holy Days and trying to practice or reflect upon some of these ideas or concepts? What comes up? Go ahead, Maury.
So when you were talking to us, I started to hear that phrase. Who before you said it, who is this aliveness that I am? Because when you said that to us before, that really stays with me. And then you started to say it. So it was really, I don't know why that is, but that really has an impact. I'm alive. Who is this aliveness that I am? It just kind of says a lot, I think, maybe.
Yeah, it does. It's that particular line is from it's from the Rabbi Menachem Nachum of Chernobyl, from a book of Torah commentary, 19th century Hasidic master called Me'or Einayim, or the light of the eyes. And Rabbi David Zeller, Zichron Livracha, who was my first real Jewish teacher of spirituality, set that line to that melody. That was his nigun that we sang and brought that in. And I think, if you think about it, it really is, it's an awareness practice as you're singing it. First it's tuning your attention into your experience as alive, not just, oh, I'm alive. Like, of course I'm alive, but, of just feeling that aliveness and then inquiring a little deeper. Okay, and that's an interesting question, even to say whose the aliveness I am. It even precludes that this aliveness is not just some kind of random, freak of nature, but there is a presence and something that is the source of that aliveness. So the question already has an assumption in it that directs our attention a little bit deeper. So yes.
Oh, it's very profound.
Yeah. Thank you. Dennis.
Is the aliveness like the watcher?
Yeah. Well, Um, yes, and which is, in some sense, aliveness is all of it, right? All of energy in creation, everything that is made up, is alive, is made up of energy, is vibrant, is happening. Even things that are not biological has life in it. It has creation in it. And then, they're also, so, it's kind of like almost, I guess the way that I look at it is the two aspects of God, that is immanent and transcendent. So when we are experiencing divinity and presence within the world, within our experience, within ourselves, within nature, within all of that, that is really the immanent presence of God. It's inside everything. And yet, that's not all there is. There isn't just objects of our awareness, but there is also the watcher itself, which transcends all of the objects of awareness, all of creation, that which is beyond, the transcendent aspect of God. And I would say that that is also that aliveness, but is the dimension of aliveness that is the watcher, that is not the objects of awareness, but is awareness itself. So it's this kind of thing to try to talk about and put in kind of categories is tricky, but I would say that from my experience, I notice that there is aliveness in what I am witnessing, and there is aliveness in the witness itself.
Your explanation was good. I got it.
Okay, good. Good. Excellent. Any other thoughts? Yes, Sandy and then Norma.
When you put out the suggestion of opening one's heart and being able to open it so wide that you could take in the whole world, for the good, for the sad, for all of it, I felt for a while some overwhelming sadness and pain and grief and a very deep desire to solve, and then feeling completely overwhelmed by knowing I couldn't. And then there was the other part that could pull into a different space of just sitting with. I think I have a lot of work to do on that.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. I really appreciate that, Sandy. I want to kind of re-articulate that because I think this is a really important place of practice. And I say it as practice because that's just what we're doing here. We're practicing ways of being in the world. So this is not about perfection. It's not about having some kind of right response or attitude to anything. It's just about practicing that heart of compassion. I love Sharon Salzberg, who's another Buju, Jewish Buddhist teacher, who has a book called A Heart as Wide as the World. And I love that title, A Heart as Wide as the World, that a lot of the times when we really open up all to everything, that's the whole deal, right? It means opening up to pain too, and to suffering and to evil in the world that is going on. And so much of our fear wants to say, no, I'm not going to open up to that because that is destructive, that causes suffering, that is all of those things. And it might seem that by opening to it, I'm allowing it to be, I'm giving it permission, I'm going to let it take over. And in this case, no, that's not what opening to all of it is about, but it is being a witness and being able to feel the reality of the pain and the suffering that's there. So yes, a human response, a real, genuine human response to truly opening to all of it would be sadness, would be anger, would be grief, as well as joy and all those other things, would be all of those things. And to be able to have space for that, right? To have space for that grief and that joy and that pain and all of that stuff that is present. Because none of being open and being compassionate does not mean that we choose not to act, does not mean that we're going to be able to apply our faculty of judgment to try to alleviate suffering in the world. But before we can apply our judgment, we have to be able to be with and understand.
Mm.
The only way we truly understand is if we open in compassion. So this is a practice. This isn't saying that, oh, having like, you know, right now we're obviously we're sitting on our meditation cushion. We're in a place of practice. So this here as practice is not the time to act, right? This is the time to practice being open and allowing for and opening our hearts, because when we do move into the world and we are faced with suffering in the world, we need both to be able to be open, to understand it, to listen to it, and then to make the decision how we want to act. Because, you know, we think about this so much interpersonally, think about so much about people for whom you disagree with, or for whom it's easy to immediately have a label and a judgment and close our hearts to a prejudice or whatever it is. If we didn't take the time to be open, to seek to understand, to be compassionate, to hear where another person's coming from, we could miss all of that. All we're doing is seeing that person through our own lens of prejudice and ideas and whatever, however we think about that as is. So when it comes to living a life of awe, right, if we're going to lead with our judgments, then we've already closed ourselves off to the infinite presence and reality that's there. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Oh, Norma and then Ellen.
Well, this really gave me something to think about. Going through what I did, coming out of it as quickly as I did. The doctors told me after being unconscious for 3 days that it would take probably a good year for me to come back. Well, I'm back.
Yeah.
And at this point, I really pushed myself for Rosh Hashanah. As you know, I was there all 3 days, and I sat through the whole thing. And it was very difficult for me to do that. But I did it, and it was my way of paying back for being here. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their patience and their just being with me. And thank you all very much.
Oh, a blessing and a privilege, Norma, and we're so glad that you are back. Good. All right, last comment, Ellen.
You know, listening to Sandy. Oh, and Norma, I'm so glad you're back and love you. Sandy, one of the things when I'm meditating is because I'm always been the problem solver. So what I'm working on actually right now, funny you should bring that up, because what I'm working on right now in my meditation is, who am I if I'm not the problem solver? So, you know, what am I aware of when there's no problem to solve? And just to become, just to be, because I guess as a mother and all kinds of, it's always solving problems. So, who am I when there's nothing to fix or to adjust or to optimize, I guess is the word. So, and what qualities do I just feel instead of intellectualize. So, and those are kind of more natural qualities, I guess. So it's just funny you should bring all that up because this is something I'm working on myself, and to just have a feeling of being. Just thought I'd share a little bit of what I'm working on.
Oh, I really, both Ellen and Sandy, I think what you both kind of just articulated in these complementary ways, I really want to offer up for us as the question that's on our hearts during this whole Yamim Noraim period. I think this is one of the most important questions that leads to Teshuvah, which is, who am I if I'm not X, Y, and Z? And just the question to be able to come back beyond the sermon that I gave on Rosh Hashanah Day was part 1 of part 2. Part 2 is going to be on Erev Yom Kippur, but it's entitled "The Lies the World Tells Us About Ourselves," about who we are. The lies the world tells us about who we are, and ways that we have unconsciously taken on from a very early age our own sense of identity and personality about who we are, that is actually all of these other layers, that is really other people's definitions of us that we have unconsciously and internalized so deeply we haven't even been able to separate it from ourselves. And yet all of those, whether it's being the problem solver or it's being the different roles that we're in or whatever it is, all these things lead to stress, lead to difficulty. They certainly have had wonderful, adaptive, important functions in our life. It's not a black or white thing, a lot of us, but when we really look deeply, and sometimes the way to look deeply is through the question. Because when I start to ask, who am I without all those things? And I start to live in my own sense of myself as a soul, as a loving awareness, then it starts to become clear, all that other stuff that I thought was me is just this other stuff that I constructed and became part of me to survive and adapt and move through the world and all the situations in my life in the way that they were. But I want to live from that deeper place. I want to sense that deeper place of who I am. And that's really what I think a lot of our work is this High Holy Days. So Shana Tova, Gamar Chatima Tova. I hope everybody has a beautiful rest of the week, and I look forward to being with all of you in the building of Temple Beth El or online for Yom Kippur.
Yes, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you so
Rabbi.
much.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see you.